Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Ask NK. Today we're taking a look at a beautiful online 3D platform that allows you to create 3D content for web 3D experience, and this is known as Spline. So Spline is a beautiful tool specifically designed for artists and also designers that would like to create motion graphic style stuff, and it's very interesting to see that the alpha release is available for Windows, Mac, and also for Linux. And for those who would like to try this, I'm going to put a link in the description that can bring you right here, and you can choose to work with this tool in two different ways. So one of them is you can get to download the tool itself and work with it, or you can simply use the web version and launch it. So if you click on launch, it brings you over to a page like this where you can see the files that you're currently working with or the files that you've saved, and then you'll be able to see your shared files and finally your deleted files. If you'd like to take a look at some of the things from the library, of course you can go over to the library section and see some of the things that they've created. And right here we have some amazing ones. These are very beautiful stuff. And of course we're going to go ahead and talk about how you can deal with all of this, how you can navigate and create your own content. And you can also see some very beautiful, motion graphic style stuff, especially designers that would like to give that 3D web experience. Maybe you want to integrate this type of thing directly into your website, take advantage of it and create some very, distinctive and beautiful MoGraph style stuff. So with this said, for you to get started with creating stuff, you need to go over to My Files and then click on New. Now, once you click on New, you would be launched into the 3D space where you can start creating stuff. The very first thing which you would notice once you open up this page is the rectangle, and this is your very basic object, and you can do a lot of things with it. Now, creating content or creating your geometries that you'll be working with is super easy, as you can find them right here. If you click on the plus sign, you will also get to notice that you have a whole lot of things that you can work with. So in case you're looking for empty objects, camera and lights, 3D models that you can work with, they all exist here. Right here is where you get to see all of the things, more like your list view. This is where you get to see all the things that exist within your viewport. Right here is where you get to see the parameters and how you can tweak these things to your liking. So getting started, if you select any object that you like to play with, you can play with the size, you can play with how the orientation would look like, and you can play with the corners. So in this case, you can go in and you can actually crank these corners all the way to 800, and you can get something even smoother. You can make this an arc depending on what you like, and in most cases you might want to also extrude them. So let's say we want to extrude this about a point like that, bevel this a little bit, so just a tiny bevel, and increase that, and you can see it. Now this would not really be visible because we're using one particular color, which is white, and we can set this to something like blue, change the lighting, which deals with the shader type, and you can see we have the 4 basic shader types that you might want to work with: Lambert, Funk, Physical, and finally Toon. So depending on what you like to work with, you can proceed to select this and start working with it. I think we should actually get Funk because it has that specularity thing going for it. And yes, you have this one here. In terms of creating things like cloners, if you click on this button, you can actually create cloners, and you can decide how you like this cloners to look like. And this is more like the Mesh type of cloners that you have, or the Cinema 4D kind of cloners that you have. And it means that you can increase the count depending on what you want. So you can have things like that. If you like this not to be radial, maybe you want them to be linear, or maybe you probably want them to be in a grid form. Yes, you can. So navigating across this is also something that we need to talk about. How you can navigate with this is very simple. All you need to do is hold on Alt on the keyboard, and with your left mouse button you can orbit around it. Alt on the keyboard, with your middle mouse button you can pan, and you can roll in and roll out, and this is how you can zoom. Now for those who will be thinking, what about the background? We need to have some good colors. Now if you zoom all the way in, you would notice that you have a grid. If you click on this grid and just simply select that, you would notice that we have a BG color. Now by default, you always have this thing selected, which are the things that you're working with. But if you select this particular section, which is more like the grid, you notice that we have a BG color, and you can click on this button and change it. You can just go with something like this, and this is how you can get started with it. Now for those that might be thinking, okay, can we model with this? Yes, you can. So if you want to model with this, all you need to do is if you click on the button here, which is the plus sign, you can select from the 3D primitives that exist, and you can work with them. In this case, if we throw in a simple cube by just selecting that cube and clicking, you would notice that we have this cube like this. And by the way, if you like to see things in orthographic view or in perspective view, you can see these things by clicking right here and switching this from orthographic to perspective, and this way you'll be able to see things in perspective. Now if you would like to frame things, if you click on this button, it's going to frame it. And for the most part, if you would like to also switch to different sides, let's say you want to see the left side, you want to see the right side, maybe the ISO, depending on what you want, you can actually throw these things and see them however you want. So with this here, how do you model with it? For objects that are 3D primitives that you might want to work with, in terms of modeling, you would notice that down here we have smooth and edit. If you click on this button, by the way, you can do all this, but if you click on this button, automatically you can launch this into the 3D component mode, which is more like a 3D modeling mode. So with this, you will notice we have face, edges, and also vertex. So modeling with this is a bit limiting right now since you have only 3 modeling commands. And one of them is extrude, so you can extrude things like select that, extrude this all the way up. That is quite nice. And then you can also insert, so if you select and you push all the way in, you can insert as well. You can also insert on other objects or other parts of your model. Finally, you also have the loop cut, which you can use to throw in loop cuts. So at any point you would like to also work with subdivision, yes, it's also possible that you can do that. And your subdivision modifier is just the only modifier that you have here, and you can crank this however you want to suit whatever you're trying to create. With this, there are some possibilities of things that you may want to make, and you can actually proceed to make them. You would also notice that to different objects there's different parameters, and you can choose to play with the color. So one of the things you can do is if you click on this button, which is within the color drop down, you can select different colors. If you want to have textures, colors, depth, normal, gradient, all these you can select. And with the gradient here, if you click on this tiny box, you can also select different colors. So I can say we would like a color like that. You can also select this other one and say we would like a color like this. And you can also add some more, you can add some more gradient points by clicking. And then I could say maybe I would like to have a red or maybe a black, for example. So we can say we'd like to have a black like this, and we can throw in another one. Now, if you want to take out, one of the gradient points, you need to click, drag all the way down till it turns red, and you can get rid of that. So if you also select this object, you can choose to make it a bit more invisible, or maybe you can drop down the opacity. So we can drag this down and you can see that we drop down the opacity. And exactly the same thing that we're looking at here is how some of the demos are kind of made. So if we switch these and make it maybe flat, for example, and we go over and grab these and drag it all the way down, you start noticing that it's sort of blending into the background. So if we go in and also select the background and choose to make the background, let's say black, for example, make it black, you'll notice it sort of fades down into the background. And we can also do some more stuff. Let's make this Lambert. So you notice it fades into the background, and some of the things or some of the models which you might be looking at were actually made the same way. And I think models like these were actually made in this same way. So you might also notice this. And of course, you might be wondering, how do they achieve shapes like this? Click on this button and we can add a LART. So there is a sort of LART tool that you can use to make stuff. So we can use this LART tool to make some interesting things. So you might want to make a pot, or you might want to make something like this. And for all of those stuff that we looked at, this was basically how they were made. So you can also click and just simply let go, and you can have some of them like this. So you can create as much things as you want here, group them however you want, have fun working with them, and create amazing and brilliant looking piece. And for those who might be looking for inspiration of things to make, you can also go over to all of these ones that are right here, take a look at them, see how they were made, study them, and see how you can come up with some very interesting things that would suit your design needs and also suit your motion graphic needs. And of course, for things like this, what you can use to drive some of these sort of points are displacements. So you might also want to throw in a displacement on something like that. Let's just go ahead and add something new, and let's hide this and grab this one and use it as an experiment. So if you would like to add displacement, you can click and you notice we have that. So we can crank this one all the way up. Right now you probably wouldn't be seeing anything, so we need to click on the plus sign to actually add another color, and this color might be the color that we would like to look at. So if we drop this in, you can now start noticing that displacement, and just like every other thing, you can tweak the displacement to your liking. So if you click on the tiny box, which is the displacement box, you can tweak how you want this noise to be. If you want to throw in a map, a texture map, you can use that. If you would like to work with the FBM, of course, you can also use this, and you can play with the scale, you can play with the movement. And for this case, let's also try something else. Let's just throw in a tiny gradient for this, and we would also switch it to something very interesting. Let's go with those hot colors we used earlier. So I'm also going to select these and select that, make this smooth, set this to radial, and this way we can start creating some very impressive piece. And for those that are thinking about exporting things out, maybe you want to use this for your web design. Yes, you can. So you can actually create states with this. So if you go all the way, and let's say you select an object like this, you can create states by clicking on the plus sign, add a certain state that you want, click an event or select or create an event that would happen within individual states. So for example, you could say on mouse up or mouse hover, certain things should happen. Yes, you can create states like this. And if you want to export these things, let's say for example, you're done creating this amazing piece and you like to export it and take it over to your DCC app of choice, or maybe you just want to export this and embed it into your web page, you can click on this tiny button that says edit frame, edit the frame where or how you would like this to display on your website. So for example, if you like it to display on your website like this, yes, you can proceed to do this, set whatever you have to set and click on export. And what will happen is the spline tool would actually take a look at what you've made, generate a URL, generate a source code, and you can simply copy this if you would like to use this. Of course, you can copy it or you can embed the iframe source code onto your web browser. And for those who want to export this and use it in their DCC apps, you can click on this tiny button, select GLTF, and then you can export the GLTF and import it into tools like Blender and start tweaking these things and working with them to get the most out of it. So this is more like it. The spline tool is a very easy tool for designers and also artists to create amazing and lovely looking motion graphic and design friendly 3D models. And you may want to come through and check this out and see how you can benefit from this. Tell me what you guys think about this one. And of course, if you like this video or you learned something from this, you can go ahead and give a like and don't forget to share with a friend. And if you're new here, it's going to be amazing for you to hit the subscribe button and also turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or the next update. And until I see you guys again with a tutorial update, Free Friday, Tutorial Tuesday, tips and tricks, things like this. Peace.